Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So I just filmed a YouTube short a little while ago about me having a movement episode after a highly emotionally charged situation. It's calmed down now, thankfully, but it gave me the idea to film a video about what I do personally when those happen or those things happen to kind of bring myself back. It doesn't always work. It definitely didn't work in acute, but now that I'm 26 months off, I kind of have a series of things that I do when I'm having a very overstimulated episode. So when that happens, you know, I have the muscle jerking and the neck pulling, as well as screaming tinnitus, and then I get the pulsating severe electricity just shooting. I can still feel it in my butt. I always feel it there. And then just the frightening thoughts that are just on repeat, and it's just like this personal hell, and it's scary. And so I have mentioned in other videos that stress is definitely a trigger for me. So it was in that situation. I had gotten really upset with a family member, and it immediately started the movement. So whenever I wake up in an overstimulated state, or when I'm just having a really bad day, or I'm in a wave, there's a few things that I do that help me. And actually this morning I was listening to a YouTube video by someone who is an experienced, not a doctor, but a different type of health professional. And he was talking about cortisol, and he was talking about stress states. And there was a few things that he mentioned that I thought, this is a lot of what I have been doing intuitively. I don't follow all of his advice, but I'm going to start following more of it. But there's definitely things that I do that he had talked about being helpful for stress states and cortisol. And I'm like, I do those when I'm in a wave and they help. So I just wanted to share them in case they can be beneficial to someone else. So there's a few different things. So one thing that I do is I immediately turn off technology. I get off social media, I get off my phone, off my computer, just that bombardment of stimulation, the blue light and just the dinging and the dopamine hits. I just feel like it makes it way worse when you're in that state. What I will do though is turn on my TV and watch something fun. I never will watch the news or something serious, like, I don't know, some type of documentary or interview or something like that. I'll always put it on a comedy show or a movie that I love, or I'll find something nostalgic that brings me back into how I used to be before I took these horrible, evil pills. So that's one thing that I do. And sometimes, depending on how severe the state is, I find that in the past, like when I was in acute, I couldn't have done this as much as I do now. But sometimes what I'll do is go out. So I'll leave my phone at home and I'll just get in my car and I'll go out, because I'm still able to drive, not necessarily when the movements are really bad, but even the after effects. Right now it's not super bad. Or if I'm just having a wave without movements, I will go out. And I'll leave all my technology at home, and I'll either go to my grandma's place where there's no Wi-Fi, there's no EMF, and it's just, there's no dinging and notifications, and I just sit down and I just talk with her and just talk about normal things. I'm not talking about symptoms. I'm not talking about drug withdrawal. I'm not talking about my health, just normal everyday things. And I find that it pulls me down a little bit, like to a more grounded place. And I find too that there's an energy exchange. I had this conversation with one of my friends the other day, and I feel like when you're around healthy people with healthy nervous systems, I feel like there's an exchange of energy, and so it can bring you down again to like a more grounded level. Spending time with kids, it can be really difficult, especially if you have a lot of the frightening thoughts that I have had. You might want to avoid those type of, you're being around vulnerable people, but I think you should do the opposite, like as long as it's just something that's an intrusive thought and it's not something that you would, you know, like it's just a symptom of the withdrawal. I find that it's another thing, it's another way to be grounded is to be around kids, because kids are just naturally happy, and I mean, obviously they get fussy, but they're unaware of sort of the weight of the world. And so I find that it just kind of pulls me out. I used to spend a lot of time with my cousin who has 6 kids. Now she has 6 kids. At the time when I was in acute, she had 5 kids. But just being, I used to spend so much time with them because they lived out on an acreage. They didn't really have any screen time. They had a big yard and all kinds of cool stuff. And I used to just play with the kids outside, and I used to just hang out and chat, and just like, they live a very simple life. And so that was something that I did as well. And I just find that, like I said, there's some type of energy exchange. So unplugging from social media and technology, except for something happy to watch on TV, being around people who have healthy nervous systems, going outside, being in nature. And I know that these sound like run-of-the-mill, just generic things, but I feel like they can get really overlooked in this state, and we can kind of come to that place where we're like, I'm in withdrawal, nothing helps. But it's cumulative, and it really does help. It does. I'm living proof that it helps. And so I think that's one of the ways I was able to just calm my movements down now. I started doing some of those things. So I took a break and then came back now, and I feel okay. I still got some residual pain for sure, but I feel a lot more calm, and no electricity and the shocking and the burning. It was quite bad, and my ears have quieted down now. So those are two things. Getting out in the sun. Now, I live in the prairies of Canada where it's winter for literally 6 months of the year. We're just getting into spring, but today it's still -3 Celsius with the wind chill, which is not very warm. So normally, like, the last couple of days were warmer. So get out and get in the sun. Get in the sun and walk. Spend time in nature. Don't take your phone with you. Just be. And it can be really hard, because especially I find, like, if you have mental stuff that I've really suffered with, you're like, I don't want to be alone with my mind. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? But it just, again, it's just one of those things where being outside, it just kind of, it pulls you out of your own head in some way, even though you're actually with your mind more. So I do that. And now, especially now that I have a baby, I take my baby for walks. If you have a pet or just a friend, or just walking by yourself, just even walking around the block. I know some people are much more limited physically. So just do what you can. Sit in front of a sunny window, go and sit out on your deck, your porch, your step, anything, like anything. I feel like it all makes a difference. And then what else do I do? So sometimes I'll have a hot shower or hot bath. I find personally, for me, the heat helps. Some people find the heat makes it worse. I'm not talking about the sunlight, and some people are triggered by sunlight. I know that, but I'm talking about warm water. I find, like, sometimes I'll literally just sit in my tub and just let the shower just come down on me, and just sit there and just let the water just beat over me for 20 minutes. And it just calms me down a little bit more. Getting on the phone with a friend, any type of distraction that's not tech or social media or something with dopamine hits or anything stressful, just something. Those are kind of main ones for me that I do. I do like to go out, because I find like that real social interaction, and away from tech, and in the sun and in nature and outside, and just getting out of the situation is helpful. And when my movements were the worst in the first year, I spent a lot of time swimming. And I've mentioned that before. I find that the gentle I wasn't hardcore like lane swimming, but just being in the water, floating, just going underneath and doing little somersaults, or just, you know, gliding through the water. It was so restorative for me. And I told my doctor that, and he had given me feedback on how that would be helpful. I forget what he said, but I mean, obviously I'm not going to go swimming outside now. It's like 0 degrees, but my daughter is in swimming lessons, indoor swimming. So we do that on Saturdays. That is helpful. Anything you can do to distract that isn't stimulating. So just give it a try. Go and work in the garden, or sit in the garden, or just put your bare feet in the grass. I mean, it's still kind of snowy and icy here, so that's not an option for me, but anything that you can do to pull you out of that state is going to be helpful. Sometimes I'll just lay on my bed and I'll take some, obviously I have a baby, so normally I don't have time to do all this, or I have to take her with me, but she's in daycare today. So sometimes I'll just lay on my bed, take some lotion, and just massage my legs, or I'll stretch, even though my body hurts like hell and it's so stiff. I'll just try to stretch, do some really gentle stretches, anything to try to pull you out. So those are some of the main things. It's even snuggling with my baby. Like if I'm in a really bad state, I'll just go and get her and I'll just hug her and snuggle with her. It's just that oxytocin. It's just the release of any type of feel-good chemicals. It all adds up. It all helps. So, or just drinking some water, or having a warm drink that's not caffeinated, any type of warmth, or just wrapping myself in a blanket, or you know, I guess it depends on what your symptoms are specifically. I know these are not all going to work for everybody, because some people don't have any energy. Some people are physically limited. Some people can't sit down. Some people, I mean, there's all different types of scenarios. So just take what you want out of that. When I was really, really constantly overstimulated in my first 6 months, especially, I spent so much, I mean, I just walked and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked. I was always outside walking. And I was connected to my video chat group that I've mentioned before. I'd formed one of women with akathisia / severe reactions / severe withdrawals. There was about 10 of us, and we could hop on. One of us would always be on the phone or on the video chat all day, and others could just come on and off like throughout the day, and you would just be like, hey, I need to chat, can somebody hop on? Or you could just look and see like if there had been a phone call made, and you could hop on and hop off, and you could see that they were still on. And it was so helpful. So it is a fine line, I think, between talking to people and having a support group and getting obsessed with it, because my mom at one point was like, okay, you're doing it too much. You have to start doing normal things. But at the time, it was my lifeline. I had to. Nobody understood me like those women. So it was essential for me to get through. Now it's more like, okay, I want to focus on talking to people not about this, about other things to pull me out. It's not as severe where I'm like, I need, you know, I'm second to second surviving. Because that can be necessary when it's that bad, just to find the right support and people who know what you're going through, who understand it, who are also experiencing it. So I just wanted to give those little tips. That's what helps me, and I hope you found it helpful. If you have other things that you found helpful, let me know in the comments, let others know in the comments. I think the more kind of tools that we have in our tool belt, the better. So I hope you all are doing okay, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.